40th anniversary of Earth Day is that those people who back around 1970 were thinking about the challenges for the planet were as foresighted as any advocates that we could have asked for, and they challenged us to maintain that vigilance. Now, there has been considerable pushback, inaccurate and phony data to try to dissuade us from thinking that there is a climate change problem. So I'm going to cite a known fringe group of advocates, NASA. NASA says that 2009 was tied for the second hottest year on record, that the decade from 2000 to 2009 was the hottest decade on record. It broke the record from 1990 to 1999, and back then they broke the record from 1980 to 1989. Are we starting to see a trend here? There is certainly a climate change issue, and one that needs to be addressed, and one that needs to be advocated, that the full facts come out, as they did not in the previous administration, to urge us in a direction such as we are taking in New York to make sure that every state conforms to the 1995 levels of energy use and reduces them by 80% by the year 2050. Yeah. So that's what we're taking. We have issued in the state a new energy plan that makes it clear that the carbon footprint has to be reduced more and more so that our next generation, the generation after that, will be able to survive. And we have now 70 local governments conforming with smart technology to try to reduce their use of carbons and fuels that do nothing but pollute the atmosphere. Now I just want to address an issue of the 2010-2011 budget and tell you that trying to reduce $9.2 billion this year after reducing $33.4 billion over the last 2 years is arduous because our resources are depleted. So please don't ever think that there is a public policy reason why we have closed 41 parks and are considering closing 15 other historical sites. Don't ever think that anybody is desirous of not purchasing more land that we can purify, as opposed to what we will be able to do this year is to protect some of the land. And nobody wanted to reduce $37.5 million from an environmental protection fund. Now, rarely do you hear a speaker get up and recite the bill of particulars that you would cite if you were talking to me. But the reason that I'm doing it is to try to persuade you these are not policy decisions. And they are not in excess of the sacrifices we're making others make. If you haven't heard, there has been no construction projects in the last 3 weeks, and will not be any until we pass this budget. Every New York State taxpayer lost their tax returns for 3 weeks. It was delayed. The state workforce has their scheduled increases delayed. No local governments or school districts are receiving money from us. We delayed $2.1 billion in school district payments until June because the state ran out of money. The state ran out of money for the first time in its history at the end of December, and I delayed payments into January when resources came in so we could pay those bills. The pat on the back I got for it is I got sued. So what I'm just trying to point out to you is that the same type of thinking that recognizes environmental challenges, thinking that people poo-pooed or thought was just that the earth and its land and its water resources and its air are just a continuing infinite source. And we found out in the last half century that it's not, nor are our state's resources financially. And if we don't watch it, we're going to wind up in places like the states of Nevada and Illinois and Michigan, which are right now, in terms of debt to GDP, in the worst possible shape. Those 3 states could go into default by the end of the year. Right behind them are the states of Arizona, Arizona, Colorado, and our neighboring state of Connecticut. Rounding out the top 10 of the states of Minnesota, Wisconsin, our neighboring state of New Jersey, and our neighboring state of Massachusetts. Oddly enough, California, which is passing out IOUs, is not in the top 15 on the list, and right now New York State is not in the top 30. But we could get there in a heartbeat, because we're starting to experience the economic woes that those states that made a wrong turn in the fork in the road, the same wrong turn we could make in the environment. And so I'm calling for the same substantive and comprehensive thinking about this budget and some of the cuts that we've had to make in terms of how we can get ourselves to a place where the state will not become insolvent or become the first state since Nevada in the early 20s to go into default. And so what I'm saying to you is, where I recognize to some degree the lack of information and the emotional reactions of other groups that come to Albany, there is no group that I think that is more substantively informed and really more aware of the environment and its consequences than all of you who come to New York this year. So I recognize the frustration and the outrage you feel at some of the decisions that I've had to make. But let me assure you, they were not made because of public policy decisions. They were made to save our state from going into bankruptcy. And if you've never been in bankruptcy, let's not have to go there before we find out what it is. Thank you for all of your service as environmental advocates. I am so moved by this field, as you may remember, that I asked Governor Spitzer in return for accepting his offer to run as his lieutenant governor. He didn't tell me about the other part of the time. That it's actually a field that I would consider working in when I leave at the end of the year. It's been a pleasure working with you. Congratulations for all of our success.